Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to another one of my interviews here on the event. We're at Mike Lindell's The Plan Revealed event, and once again, I'm bringing people together to talk about things that they've seen in their community and their election process, because a lot of people try to argue that this event or anybody that's talking about election integrity is really doing it because they want to get Trump back in office or they think it's a Republican issue. But the reality is, when you bring more people together and you hear the individual stories, the small stories that don't make the news, we realize how many problems we have in not only our elections, but in our communities, that those problems are being solved by people getting involved and exposing what's going on, so you can see it's not the big picture that they're telling you it's the small picture. And one of those people with me is Crissy Kantor. Crissy Kantor?
Yes, Crissy Kantor.
Thank you so much for being on the show today.
I'm so grateful, thank you.
Well, you're an alderman in New Hampshire, right?
Yes, newly elected.
Newly
I won
elected.
a special election.
Well, we're going to bring that on in just a second. And the other person with me is John Veltri, who's been on my show before. John, you're with New Mexico. What's your organization again?
New Mexico Election Transparency Network, and I'm the chairman out of New Mexico that runs that group with a great group of board members.
So, Crissy, what got you involved in this movement for election integrity?
Well, being done with being lied to. It started with the fraudulent, the coronavirus, everything that happened with the shutdowns. That woke me up to what was really going on. And then the 2020 election, when people were sent home from the polling stations, I actually heard people like calling and saying, hey, I was sent home. Why did everything stop? Why did they stop counting? So that's part of how I got involved and just want to know the truth. And we know what the truth is. We need to go to paper ballots. Everything needs to be transparent, and we need accountability.
What's interesting is that everybody talks about this, they stopped the vote, but nobody really points out how they stopped the vote at a time when they're not supposed to, they're disenfranchising voters, but then they started the vote back up when nobody could be there because they started back up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's exactly accurate. And I guess the big thing is, if there's nothing wrong, shouldn't we be completely transparent?
So as an alderman, what do you do there in New Hampshire?
So in my ward, I actually just won by a special election, a landslide they call it, and I did ask for a recount, but they're like, all right, it's going to be a lot of money. Do you really want to, because you won by a landslide? And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll wait for the next time. Because to me, even though I won by a landslide, I want every vote to count and want everyone to feel comfortable with my win.
This is interesting. So even though you won, you still wanted a recount because you believe in not only election integrity, but you believe in elections being transparent and accountable. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, 100%. Transparency all the way. That's what I ran on, is transparency, accountability, and integrity. And if we have nothing to hide, then let's open everything up. Let's open up the machines. Let's see what's going on. The source code. I mean, I've been just so awakened by my friend John Veltri and David Clements and Aaron Clements.
Amazing people.
Amazing people. And it was pretty crazy to hear. I found out about election fraud in New Hampshire when Marilyn Todd, an amazing, courageous woman in New Hampshire, was on David Clements' podcast. And I'm like, wait a second, election integrity issues are in New Hampshire? So it's pretty crazy. I happened to be in New Mexico when I was staying there. And then I found out about New Hampshire. So the censorship is unjust and it's 100% wrong, and there is fake news. And so I appreciate you sharing the truth and standing up for all of us, all Americans that want transparency and accountability.
Exactly. I mean, we just look, whether people believe it or not, whether people want to believe the facts or ignore them. I think that we need to get as much information out there for people. How about you, John? What are you talking about these days? What are you working on?
Not much. Just transparent and secure elections. Bill, we've talked before, or William, I should say. We've talked before, and my number one goal is to remove all electronics. I know too much about them. I know that the tabulators, don't just count and run a tape at the end of the day, and you pull the ballots out of the bottom and they match. I know that they are electronic pieces of equipment. Okay, they have Ethernet, internet, they have wireless modems. They can be remotely accessed in a dark warehouse, unplugged, with no power even on them, and they can be reprogrammed. We have certification processes in New Mexico that hasn't occurred properly in over 10 years. So basically every elected official we have in New Mexico has been selected or elected illegally because we don't even have software that is certified in New Mexico. And that's not just New Mexico, that's around the nation, I'm sure. I listened to the 50-state readout today, and many of them cited the same issues. Voter ID, we still don't have it. I mean, you can go in and vote for me, and I can vote for you. On the day of election, I'll go in there and vote, and they'll say, sorry, John, your vote's already been used. And I'll go, what? You know, and I won't even know who voted.
This is in New Mexico?
That's in New Mexico. We have 1 or 2 counties where ID is required, but we have 33 counties. Most of them are not. Voter rolls, dead people voting, trying to clean up the voter rolls, getting people off of it that don't belong there, that have moved. We got drop boxes that has been changed with a couple bad bills. I'll mention HB 4, and HB 4 is the voter rights protection. It's not even close to what it states that it is, and the election changes is SB 180. This is a House and a Senate bill that we tried to make good arguments on during the legislative session to no avail. They went ahead and passed these bad bills anyway. In the New Mexico Election Transparency Network that I shared with you, that quarterly edition.
I see that.
Page 3 covers the entire thing about what we're doing around referendum process, which is our Constitution right to do that and try to get this back on the ballot in November and let the people vote on it, because they're trying to change these things and make them permanent, like drop boxes. Drop boxes is just another way of allowing stuffing or ballot harvesting to occur.
I saw the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2,000 views.
Exactly.
4 million minutes of hard fact evidence. And you know I only deal with the facts. I don't deal with no speculation.
And when they talked about the geo tracking that was done on those, that got they said that they tried to discredit the movie by saying the geo tracking wasn't good. That same geo tracking they used on everybody who was at January 6th.
Yeah. And I just want to mention one other thing. Sure. I didn't mention this to you in previous interviews, William, but New Mexico Election Transparency Network, our guiding documents are real simple. There's 3 of them. It's the Holy Bible, it's the New Mexico Constitution, and it's also the United States Constitution. All laws, rules, statutes, and mandates must align with these documents. They must align with these documents.
And what's amazing is I've talked to so many people about so many different little rules, regulations, procedures that aren't lining up or aren't working or they're not being done properly, but yet they keep getting ignored. Nobody enforces the rules, the laws, the procedures, and they keep getting through. Yeah. Have you noticed as an alderman in your election anything like that?
What I've noticed when absentee ballot, you have to actually go to City Hall and sign. So I saw everything in my city that I've seen so far looks good. So I haven't had any issues there, but I'm also new. But my eyes are wide open, and to me, it's about transparency, exactly. Right?
So when you redid the recount on your own election, even though you won a landslide, did you find any irregularities?
So I didn't do a recount because
it was too expensive.
It was going to be too expensive, and it was going to cost the taxpayers money. And it was clear who was winning because everyone showed up to vote, and we're done. We're done with the lies. We're done with the lack of integrity, and people showed up and voted, and it was amazing. Because the last person, who was an amazing alderman, won by 17 or 20 votes, and he did a great job. I won by 160 votes. So that's what I mean. Is it's not just me. It's people are done. They're done with the lies, and they want to change. And even though the other guy was a great guy, do you know what I'm saying?
I can see it.
It's just about getting to the polls until we can get rid of the machines.
And what it's
right?
about for me is getting more and more people involved.
Yes.
And when you get more people involved in the process, look, it doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. I mentioned the word earlier today on another interview, Jim Crow. And the reason I brought that up is when you look back at the tactics way back when that was used to disenfranchise minorities from being able to vote and get out there, and you looked at the old school tactics and the old school narratives that were being used, it's parallel to what we're seeing today. The narratives that our elections are, that there's nothing wrong, and anybody who wants to deny or check or be able to recount, they're the ones that are wrong. when the reality is, if there's nothing wrong, we should be able to see and make sure for ourselves that there's nothing wrong, which is why I commend you for checking into the recount.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I believe in critical thinking, and no question is a dumb question. And I think it's really, really important that we ask questions. It's really the American way, right?
I love how you put that, because so many people are worried about how to get involved, and they say, well, I don't want to get involved. I don't have the time, or maybe they're worried about being involved. I say, look, sometimes it's just showing up,
Yes.
being quiet, asking questions, and if not asking questions, using your critical thinking brain to go, is this right?
Things that make you go,
Exactly right.
And that's when, even if you aren't a public speaker, you just have to put yourself out there, because someone else is asking that question, but they just don't have the courage to do it. So I say ask the questions, but ask them with kindness and respect, and that's how we're going to be able to handle all this, I feel.
So I'm going to share two things with you real quick, then we'll go back to you. Is one thing I like to tell people is, even if people say, well, my vote doesn't count, I say, well, you know what, you go vote anyway. Because the more people that show up to vote, the people counting the votes know the real score, the real truth. They know how if it's a tax, an increase in your taxes, if it's a project, whatever the case may be. If you show up to vote, the ones counting the votes know how you really feel. So even if they overturn it, like everybody thinks with the election, with election machines, they still realize the majority of the people don't like it, and we can't get away with this. The same way as it's important to show up for your council meetings, because the more people that just show up, they see the numbers. They go, wow, a lot of people show up. This is a standing room only. How about you, John? What do you think about that?
Oh, I totally agree, William. I think it's real simple. The silent majority out there is still the majority. They're just not silent anymore. And, it's about doing those three words I told you before, do what's right. That's all we got to do, is just do what's right. It's simple. It's not complicated. We make it complicated. There's things that are wrong that we need to make right. There are things that are broke that need to be fixed. And if you're a part of wanting to do that, you just need to go to New Mexico Election Transparency Network.org and look at our website, and we'll be there to help you any way we can. But I totally agree with you 100%. And as far as the machines go, you can vote all day long the way you want, but until they get rid of the electronics, they will be manipulated votes. It doesn't matter what Crissy voted for, what I voted for. At the end of the day, once those electronics do their thing, those votes will come out the way they want them to come out. End of story.
John, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
As always,
we're going to do this again some more. You know that.
Yes, sir.
Can I share one more thing?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
I have to do an amazing kudos to John and Mary Jo and the group and that head up. They head up Sandoval County, and they've been showing up. And your voice really matters. And they're only allowed 2 minutes at each county commissioner meeting. And they strategically set up so many people, so the county commissioners have to listen. That's your voice. And what I'm saying to people in Manchester and across the country is show up at your alderman meetings, show up at your county commissioner meetings, because the other people are showing up that you might not want them to vote that certain way. And it's really important, because what you've done in Sandoval County is incredible.
Well, thank you,
With
Crissy.
the activation of grassroots, caring people that want people to do what's right, want their commissioners to do what's right.
Crissy, that is actually an amazing recommendation for people all across this country that aren't getting their voices heard because they want to get up there and they want to speak, and they get like 2 minutes, and then they get cut off at the mic until they can't speak, and so their voice goes unheard. Where if you've got a 10-minute speech, you get 5 people to do it, and you've got the word out. That's amazing. That's a great suggestion. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Well, it's John that led the way with Mary Jo.
It's we together.
Okay.
Can and will make a difference. And really, it's just raising awareness and spreading the word. If you do your research, you can come prepared to talk. And if you're organized, you can talk for as long as you want and get your message across. And the bottom line is it's all on record.
I love it. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it. We're going to do this again. Have you all on there. And everybody else, please share the video. If you think it's something interesting, something that somebody might learn something from, please share it, because when we all work together, it's the only way we're going to save our communities and protect our freedoms and liberties. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Crissy.
So much.